Hey, thanks for coming by. Welcome to the channel. Let me bring you over and show you all the neat things I've done to my Jeep. Well, before we get too far into it, I figured I'd give a brief history of the Jeep. It is a 2005 Jeep Wrangler TJ. Got it from some friends for a really good deal. They had all the maintenance records and everything. It just had a little fender bender. Gave it to me bone stock, and I've turned it into this thing. The front seems like a good place to start. One of the first upgrades I did to the Jeep were the headlights. The stock Jeep lights are borderline dangerous. They throw out no light. These are knockoff truck lights from Amazon. They throw a really wide pattern into the ditch so you can see deer and everything. To complement those, I got some KC daylighters much later. They shoot down the road much better and give more of a spot pattern. Behind those, we have the Smittybilt X2O waterproof winch. 12,000 pounds. It's a little overkill for the Jeep, but it makes sure I can always pull myself out and get other people out as well. Everything in the front is held on by, you guessed it, an Amazon special bumper. I found out all these cheap bumpers are basically the same thing with just different names. I believe the brand on this is EAG. Well, we'll head over to tires and lift. I have 31 1050 15s, Mickey Thompson hybrid tires. They do off-road and highway both pretty well. Just on the stock rims. Holding all that up, I've got some H&R high rate springs. They're a little stiffer because of all the weight on the front bumper. They only give me about an inch of lift, and then I put some 3/4 inch Daystar spacers in. I'm also running Rancho 5000X shocks. They are pretty smooth for what a Jeep is. I have the same suspension in the rear. I just added some airbags. When you load up the roof rack in the back of the Jeep full, it doesn't handle very well. The airbags have definitely helped out. Now we'll head underneath. Here's where I've done the major upgrades to the Jeep. Put in new axles, have a Dana 30 high pinion in the front. It's a little more heavy duty, and then I put a Dana 44 in the rear. I have 456 gears and lockers front and rear. The lockers and gears have made a huge difference on the trails and the highway both. Also on the front here, I have my SwayLOC dual rate anti-sway bar system. It replaces the stock anti-sway bar. It has a torsion bar in it that is firmer than the stock one, but then with the flip of a switch here, we can switch it to a lower rate torsion bar that gives the Jeep full articulation. The torsion bar will push one tire down as the other lifts, so it helps you keep better traction on trail. And we'll move up top. I installed a hood louver as well. These Jeeps run really hot at 210 degrees. These hoods hold all that heat in. The hood louver has definitely helped with heat soak, both the hood and inside the cab as well. Speaking of heat, another major thing I did was add a transmission cooler. I'm gonna cut to a picture. It's down under the side of the Jeep here. The transmissions in these automatic Jeeps are known to run really hot, so I made sure to take care of that right away. Before we look under the hood here, I installed some aftermarket hood latches. The stock ones are rubber and were starting to wear out. The hood would flutter anytime a semi came by. These are made out of aluminum, pretty heavy duty. Everything under the hood's pretty stock. I have my lockers over here. It does have an AGM battery that came with it, still going strong. At some point I do need to upgrade the wiring to this. Around the front here, I did replace the radiator. That's a normal maintenance thing. And then on the other side here, we have my ARB air compressor. I use it to air up the tires after I'm done on a trail. And then the inflator for the airbags in the back is just over to the side. Now we'll head down the side of the Jeep here. This front fender is the one that got damaged. Show some pictures here, hopefully. It was definitely some driveway body work. I used a jack, a 2x4, and a hammer to get all the dents out. Then I threw on some color match paint and some 2-part clear coat. This is how it turned out. Also got some bushwhacker fender flares to give the tires a bit more room and clearance. Amazon special rock sliders and bushwhackers in the back as well. The Jeep came with a soft top and half doors. It's really fun to take the top off during the summer, but they're almost unbearable on a long highway drive. So I went to a local junkyard and got some doors that don't match, and a hardtop I had to paint. I also threw some insulation into the hardtop. It was very boomy since it's just fiberglass. They've really helped cut down the noise a lot on long highway trips. I also modified the Jeep doors. They come with plastic inserts. I tore all that out. I put in a piece of sheet metal with outdoor fabric, also an armrest, and a handle to pull the door shut. It gives a lot more room in the seat. The back of the Jeep still has the stock bumper and tire carrier. One other big upgrade I did here was have a friend build a box. It holds my cooler, well, refrigerator now, and battery, and also water for longer trips. Helps keep everything organized and really makes it easier to use. Around to the front of the box, there is storage with a lock on it. Inside, I keep all my stuff to air down and air up. On the side over here, I had to add a vent. The refrigerator and battery charging got a little hot, so this lets the airflow get into it. One last upgrade to the back is I put in a set of lights. I will probably give you some footage in the nighttime for these. They're just red lights, so they don't attract bugs. It's just enough to help you grab stuff while you're camping and don't have anything set up yet. Last thing outside is probably the roof rack. This is the thing I use the most on trips. These Jeeps have no room on the inside at all, so I load this thing up pretty heavy. It's part of the reason for the air shocks. It is a Garvin wilderness rack. It's done me pretty good, but I do need to make some modifications to it that we'll probably add in later videos. Oh, come inside. I've only done a few mods in the interior. First, we have the transmission temp here. Got a little tray for some extra storage, cell phone holder, tablet holder. Got a aftermarket stereo. I've replaced all the speakers in the subwoofer with waterproof stuff. If we head on down here, we've got my switch panel. This is definitely one of my favorite mods. I built this from scratch using a blueprint from TJ Forums. I really love the retro look. I put in super chunky switches that are kind of hard to flip and make it fun to use. I tried to include everything I could think of. We've got overdrive off here. These Jeeps tend to shift into overdrive way too early and bog the engine. Next, we have the switch for the KC daylighters up front. They're wired up to turn on when you turn the brights on. The switch will override that so you can turn them off or keep them on all the time. Next, we have the ARB air compressor under the hood. I left the last 3 slots empty for future mods. Finally, we have my front and rear lockers. I added safety caps to these so you don't accidentally turn them on while you're going down the highway. It also makes them super fun to use. I feel like Batman in here. If we continue down, we have the switches for my heated seats. I know it's a bit cushy for a Jeep, but there's nothing better than heated seats in the winter. I can also roll down the windows or take the doors off and stay plenty warm. Not really a mod, but we have our best top floor mats the Jeep came with. I recommend these to anyone. They make it a lot easier to clean the Jeep out. I know I could just tear the carpet out and hose the thing down, but I daily drive this too. That also gave a little peek to the Dynamat over here. The trans tunnel and floor get really hot in these Jeeps, so I went ahead and bought some generic Dynamat and did the whole Jeep. It's really helped with the heat in the cab. I'm probably going to put a second layer on a few spots in the transmission tunnel. It still gets a little warm there. Lastly, up top here is one of the latest upgrades I did. The interior doesn't have much storage space, so I put a Molle Bar up top that lets you put pouches so you can store things. It's been pretty good so far. Well, I think that wraps up all the major modifications to the Jeep. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions about anything you've seen. I've also put links to everything in the description below. As a final note, you don't need any of this stuff to go on an adventure. Now get out there and see the stars!